Welcome to the Minute to Movies. This is Andor, Season 2. Cassian Andor is back, now a top operative in the Rebellion. He's on a mission to steal a new prototype TIE fighter, but it's much harder to fly than he was expecting, and so the stealth mission is decidedly unstealthy. The mission continues to go round, as Cassian's contact is not at the meeting point. Instead, there's a group of other rebels who don't know about Cassian's mission and assume he's a real Imperial pilot. This group is a mess. They're in the midst of a power struggle, which they're going to resolve with an intense game of rock, paper, scissors. It's rudely interrupted by the local wild wife who bust out the jumble and beat them all, so Cassian flies out of there. He just can't save everyone. Meanwhile, on peaceful farm planet, Cassian's girlfriend Bix is hiding out with the other survivors of their home planet Ferrix. The Empire never comes out here, except right now they're due on a census. Long story short, they all get caught, and one of the Imperial officers tries to sexually assault Bix. Luckily, just then, Cassian flies in with his new TIE fighter, blows all the stormtroopers up. His best friend from Season 1 dies, but he and Bix are reunited, and that day is saved. Meanwhile, Senator Mon Mothma, who's secretly funding and supporting a rebellion, is getting ready for her daughter's wedding. And attending the wedding is the foppish antique dealer Luthen, who of course is secretly the main architect of the rebellion. Last season, Mon had her banker best friend cover up that she's donating to the rebellion, but since then he's lost a ton of money and is acting erratically, basically looking for a bride to keep from turning Mon in. Luthen doesn't like this one bit, but Mon's like, he was my childhood best friend, we can't just kill him. But Luthen's not taking any chances. In fact, he's already made it happen, so Mon Mothma has sacrificed her torso life for the rebellion once again. But right now she has to suppress those emotions because DJ Bot is in the house, and she needs to maintain her cover of getting drunk and dancing like a dummy at her daughter's wedding. Meanwhile, Imperial Intelligence Officer Dedra Meero is on a super top secret meeting with Director Krennic, who we know from Rogue One is the guy in charge of building the Death Star. He's interested in the planet Ghorman, which is famous for its clothing industry, but turns out there's also a unique mineral in the planet's core that they need to power the Death Star's lasers. So the Empire needs an excuse to declare the Ghormans rebels so they can kill everyone there and mine the planet to death. So Dedra Meero is put in charge of starting the Ghorman Rebellion. And so, 1 year later, Dedra's man on the ground on Ghorman is none other than our favorite Imperial fanboy, Cyril. This one's the uptight villain romance we were weirdly rooting for, and these two got together. The Empire's been generally messing with Ghorman, so the unrest is starting. Cyril attends a community meeting where he acts sympathetic to their cause, and the newly forming Ghorman Rebellion recruits Cyril, which of course, unfortunately for them, is all according to the Empire's plan. Luthen makes contact with the Ghorman Rebellion and sends his best man Cassian Andor to go check it out with his cover identity as a fancy fashion designer. They're excited to do rebel stuff, but they're wildly inexperienced. Cassian's like, yo, they're just gonna get themselves killed. But that's a sacrifice Luthen is willing to make, because Ghorman is a prime planet. If there's a big rebellion there, it would make headlines and get more planets to join their cause. Cassian wants no part of that, so instead Luthen sends Mon Mothma's sister Val. She's reunited with her girlfriend, who she hasn't seen since their Season 1 heist, and these two get it on. They teach the Ghormans how to rebel, hijacking an Imperial on-shipment, but unfortunately these inexperienced Ghormans accidentally fire a blaster that kills Val's girlfriend. How tragic. And so 1 year later, it's the main rebellion based on Yavin that we saw in the original Star Wars. Tracy and Bix are living here happily, but now an mission comes in to assassinate Dedra Meero. So Cassian Andor heads back to Ghorman, but things have deteriorated rapidly here. The Empire has continued to crack down, which has just made the rebellion grow, and the propaganda is telling the galaxy the Ghormans are bad guys. Today, in fact, there's a massive protest, and the Empire's out in force, just hoping that it turns violent. Fuck the Ghormans, keep it peaceful, they just start singing Les Miserables. So it's time for Plan B. The Empire has a secret sniper shoot one of the Imperial guards, so the rest of them open fire on the crowd, and the Ghorman rebels fire back. It just ends into a chaotic fight, but because most of this crowd is unarmed, it's a straight-up massacre. Meanwhile, Cyril didn't know the real plan here. Once he learns that the Empire tricked the Ghormans into rebelling so they have an excuse to take their resources, he starts to realize that the Empire is the bad guy. Just then, though, who does he see but Cassian Andor, the rebel he spent all Season 1 hunting, and a convenient target for his rage. They end up in a fight to the death, and just before Cyril shoots him, Cassian's like, bro, who even are you? That's a bit of a gut punch to poor Cyril, who thought he was the main character in the story. Just then, he's shot and dies ignominiously. The next day, on the Imperial capital of Coruscant, our secret rebel senators Mon Mothma and Princess Leia's father, Bail Organa. Mon realizes this is it. She's gonna make one last big speech, then flee the planet and join the rebellion for real. The only senators on the schedule to speak are the ones towing the party line, saying that Ghorman is bad. But Bail Organa invokes a sneaky legislative point of order that lets him cede his time to Mon Mothma. And she delivers an epic speech of the kind that this show has become famous for. The distance between what is said and what is true has become an abyss. She basically says, we all know it, the Empire is clearly the bad guy. And the speech was broadcast to the galaxy before they managed to shut her down. She is obviously under arrest, but she's gonna ride out of here. It's our friend Cassian Andor. She's never met met Cassian before, and she barely trusts Luthen, so there's a lot of confusion about who's here to save her and who's here to kill her. Pretty soon Cassian proves he's the one she should trust, and so he flies her out of there, Mon Mothma finally dropping her cover. Welcome to the rebellion. Now this was going to be Cassian's final mission. He's good enough for the rebellion, he's ready to live a quiet life with Bix. But in the morning, Bix has left him. It's like, Cassian, I'll love you forever, but the rebellion needs you, and you'll never be able to give 100% as long as you're worried about me. And so, 1 year later, Luthen, still in Coruscant, has a final meeting with his spy inside of Imperial intelligence. All these seemingly unrelated operations the Empire is filed under boring energy projects. Don't bother looking. Turns out they're secretly building a super weapon that can destroy entire planets. Yes, it's the Death Star. So this is it. Luthen's got to bird his entire operation, including, unfortunately, this guy. But it's already too late, cause Daedra Miro has found him. Yeah, she knows he's Axis, the main rebel connection that she spent her whole career hunting for. She's excited to interrogate him, but Luthen's not gonna let that happen. Grabs an antique knife to kill himself. Unfortunately, with Star Wars advanced technology, he's likely to recover. Now this whole time, Luthen would have been completely useless without his loyal one-time assistant, Kleya. She's mostly kind of been a background character. We've only seen her be the rebellion's phone operator. But now with Luthen in trouble, it's time for Kleya to take the spotlight. We finally get Luthen's backstory. He was, in fact, an Imperial soldier who had a crisis of conscience when he realized he was the bad guy. And on that day, he found a little girl hiding. Yes, it's Kleya. He basically became a father to her, and throughout the years trained her to be an incredible rebel. So now she infiltrates the hospital by kidnapping E.T.'s grandmother, and she's on a one-woman secret mission to sneak past all their defenses. And so Kleya pulls the plug, says goodbye to her longtime mentor and father figure. And that's where Luthen, the unsung hero, the unknown architect of the rebellion, dies ignominiously. And Daedra Miro, the one who caught him, is not rewarded for her brilliance. She's in big trouble for letting the Death Star plans leak, and so after one mistake that really wasn't even actually her fault, the Empire's loyalist, most diligent servant is locked up in one of its prisons. Now Kleya needs to escape, so she pulls out her Morse code machine to call Cassian for a pickup. Unfortunately, the Empire is already here, and things are looking real bleak. But waiting outside in the ship is Cassian's droid friend K2SO. Yeah, back on Ghorman, the Empire deployed the Chex droids, which was way overkill, but Cassian managed to bring one back to the rebellion, who we programmed into the sassy good droid we know from Rogue One. And luckily K2 was famously not good at waiting in the ship. He busts in to save the day. So Cassian tells the rebel leaders that Luthen discovered the Death Star, but at first they don't believe it because most of these guys who joined recently don't even know who Luthen is. So Cassian sets the record straight. Yeah, Luthen was kind of an asshole, but without him doing what he did, none of you would even be here. So they agreed to look into it, and now we've caught up to the beginning of Rogue One. And so Cassian Andor gets an epic walking shot as he sets off for his final mission, which we know he will return from. But that unpeaceful farm planet, Bix, is leading the quiet life with a baby Cassian. And that's where Andor comes to an end.